Hello, everybody. How are y'all doing? Hope you're doing well. We're back here with another Advocate Spotlight. Today, I'm Eric Carter-Londine, co-founder and CEO of Advocacy Conference, which is happening March 28th through the 30th in Indianapolis, officially in partnership with the Indianapolis Metro Police Department, as well as the prosecutor's office. So happy to be here, happy to brag about that because it's a big deal, and we're super excited to welcome our guests today. So Haley Gray is here joining us. And Haley, welcome to your first Advocate Spotlight with Advocacy Conference. How are you tonight?
Thank you so much for having me. I'm doing well. I just ate some Chinese food, so it's been a pretty good night.
That sounds amazing. Haley, why don't you introduce yourself to the Advocacy Conference average attendee that's going to be watching, or anybody who is watching on any of the other feeds that this is shared. Talk about yourself, about what you do, and let's just get into that conversation right now.
All right, so I'm Haley Gray. I am a certified victim advocate, and I have been working in the true crime podcasting space for almost 9 years now. I am a researcher and writer for multiple podcasts, and my primary focus is working with families on unresolved cases to help bring awareness to them and advocate in any way that I can. And then aside from that, I have a couple other things that I do. I am the founder and CEO of True Crime Podcast Training with Whitney. She used to help me just as a employee, but now she is officially the COO of True Crime Podcast Training. And then in addition to, I guess I should say a little bit about that. We train people on how to research for true crime podcasts or anything else. We've had people take it for genealogy. We've actually had a parent take the class to learn how to research their daughter's murder, which was very tragic, but also so eye-opening for Whitney and I, and has inspired us to do some things in the future, which we'll actually be unveiling at AdvocacyCon. But then aside from that, I'm also the secretary for the Bridegan Foundation and the media specialist for Light the Way, which we just announced yesterday that we're partnering with the Gabby Petito Foundation. So those are my main gigs, but so mostly everything I do is just, it all comes back to advocacy.
Wow,
I
busy lady.
And I really feel like you glazed over a lot of what you actually do. There's so many things she did not list that she does behind the scenes working with families. She's a force of nature when it comes to advocating. So she that was just, Cliff Notes versions of what Haley actually does. She's not going to talk that much up about herself though.
Thank you for saying that. I paid Whitney a lot of money to say that for me.
Lies. Love it. I do have a question. So do you know off the top of your head, I know this might be a little crazy question, but can you tell us any cases where poor research led to either harm or misinformation within the family? I mean, I think I could come up with a few already, but in your experience.
I think there's a lot of cases like that. We may not always know about the level of harm that they do. We've seen the, police come out and say, in certain cases, like the Sebastian Rogers case really came to mind there. When he went missing, people were like flocking to his mom's house where he went missing from, and were basically stalking the house, like driving by at all hours of the night. And they ended up having, his mom ended up having to file motions against the people, like one woman who wouldn't stop doing it, and and ended up driving her out of the neighborhood, and she had to leave because it just wasn't, safe for anyone, for herself or for her neighbors. So that, to me, that's causing harm. Even if you think that she was involved, is that necessary? And also, there's no evidence like concrete evidence that she was involved. The police have never said that. So why are you doing this, to this family? That's one that comes to mind. I know John Benet Ramsey's family has really been hurt by accusations that John Benet's mom was involved, the brother. That's a really big one. I think there's just a lot of cases where that happens, and it's unfortunate to me. I think when we have like those Reddit threads where people just sharing a bunch of theories that aren't rooted in anything. For example, yesterday I was talking to Ryan Shtuka's mom, and I'm working on an episode, and she mentioned in there that there are two theories that people throw out there that are really harmful to the case and to the family, and they're all rooted in Ryan supposedly being involved in drugs, which is just crazy because he had just moved there and like there's no evidence of this at all. And then you have people saying that his disappearance is because he had a drug debt or that he was dealing large amounts of drugs. And it's like that's taking away you know, that's taking away from the facts of the case because there are no facts to even, have a basis for those theories. And so I always just think about the families and how affected they are by these rumors and these things. And again, taking away from what should, like, just taking the attention away from what matters.
Yeah, that's something that is, I think, such an important thing to talk about when we're talking about the ethics of true crime storytelling. The dehumanization of the victim and the expectation that a victim needs to be perfect in order for their life to matter. It's one of the things that just I don't quite understand. Like, no matter what a person's past is, everybody has a past. Everybody has made choices in their life that they may not be proud of. It doesn't mean that they're any less deserving. And so sometimes when people say things, oh, well, they were just using drugs, or that's probably why that happened. You minimize and discount the incredible loss that family and those people that love that person. But you also discount and devalue their life and their worth. And I love that is what you brought up as something, it's such a huge part of it. And it's so subtle that maybe people don't even really think about it when it's happening.
Yeah, absolutely. And Ryan's mom, Heather, she described that because she works with with families of missing loved ones now through a nonprofit. And she was talking about how she kind of sees people try to set up layers between themselves, like to try and not feel so bad for the victim. Like, oh, they did drugs. That's a layer of me not having to care as much. Oh, they were a sex worker. There's another layer. And it's like all these layers or, degrees of separation when we shouldn't have those, because no matter what anyone does, that should never lead to their disappearance or their murder and things like that. And again, I just caution people who come up with theories online to remind themselves that families read those comments. And also, unfortunately, there are people out there who will read those things, take them as fact, go out and regurgitate them, or we even have some people who will call the police and call in a tip about those things. And then you have the police spending their resources investigating something that is absolutely not true. Like with Ryan's case, there is no foundation whatsoever for drugs to be a part of his disappearance. And yet that has become some sort of theory that people are sharing online. And it's like, no, where is that coming from? And where are your facts? And, again, so I want to talk to those people who say those things online and be like, do you understand the harm you're doing?
Yeah, I forgot to kind of circle back on my thought there. Like, I think that's the key, right? Is that it wasn't true, but also like there are people who don't care when they hear that. Then suddenly like they stop caring about the case. They don't want to share it. They don't want to talk to people about it. And I think you're right. Like that, it's just so unfair because there was no evidence of that. There was nothing factually based on that. So I thank you, Haley. I love how clearly you put those things and how much thought you put into, the way that you approach the true crime sphere. As a family member, it just means so much that you care enough to think about those things.
Thank you. Yeah, it's from talking to families like yourself that has really shaped my point of view on things. And I tell people all the time that working with families will completely change everything about you. Like, I have a really hard time. I was never a huge true crime fan before I even got into podcasting. I didn't like grow up watching Dateline and things like that with my mom. I have an interesting, like, it's not interesting, I should say, how I got into working in this field. But I just, it has changed how I look at other things about true crime. Like sometimes my partner will watch a video or something and I'll be like, oh, I cannot believe they just worded that way, but like I probably wouldn't have thought that way before I started talking to families. And I feel like it just really changes you as a person. And I think um, I I want everyone who works in true crime to get to talk to families and really learn from them and hear what they like about true crime and also what they wish would change. And also, Whitney and I have talked about this a lot, just the horror stories that we've heard and how that makes us change how we want to do things in the future. Not that we're already doing those things, but like, let's make sure we never do those things.
Yeah, like you said, it definitely changes you. From the first time Whitney and I met with family, it was like a light bulb went off in us, and you can never go back. And I really am so glad we did that the first time, just a few months after we started podcasting. So grateful that we started this journey because it is definitely eye-opening.
Yeah. I don't know if I'm allowed to comment on any of the comments that we got, but I saw somebody put Arlene's comment on there. And Arlene is one of, if not the first family that I ever got the opportunity to work with. And before I had spoken to her, I had never worked one-on-one with families. I had worked on unsolved podcasts, but the host preferred to speak to the families, which I understand. Now I'm lucky enough to have clients that trust me to work with families, and it's been a adventure for sure. You have to gain trust and things like that. But yeah, I used to not work with families, and to think of that day ever happening is just so unbelievable to me. And then there's also an episode in I think the first season of True Crime BES. I'm not sure if I can curse on here, but our friend Josh Hallmark show, and he interviewed me, and this was years ago, years and years ago, and I was like, I don't cover unsolved cases because I like to have a resolution, and boy, do I wish that was not out there because I don't feel that way anymore at all. And I think that me saying that is hurtful. Of course, I said that years and years ago before I
Mhm.
knew better, but um, I really dislike when I see other people say those things. And so I'm like, why did I ever say that? But it just shows how much somebody could change because I can't imagine my life not working directly with families. I truly feel like that is what I am meant to do in this world. And this is the first time I've ever been like, I I am where I need to be. And so to have that out there, I'm like, it's okay. But I'm like, oh boy, I hope nobody hears that and then sees the stuff on my page and they're like, this woman is all over the place, sending mixed signals.
Well, I think that it's all part of that evolution. Melissa and I talk a lot about our journey into this. We went from a very insensitive name to what we are now, and it was all part of the learning process. Again, meeting families, working with them, the way your thought processes change after doing that. And I think it's important to own that of I just didn't know then, and now I know, and now I've made the change, and you can too.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm big on people understanding that you can change and you can grow. And I grow every day. I'm still learning how to be the best advocate I can be, and that's why I just really love these conversations.
So I'm sure this is Sean or John, one of the two. I'm not sure which one. They're wondering if you're going to be conducting a session at AdvocacyCon. And Haley's actually going to be a part of 2 sessions. We have not released the schedule yet. That is, I know I promised it last time we were on here, but we had some last minute changes, and we're trying to tweak it just to make it perfect before we tell everyone. But she will be. Do you want to talk a little bit about what you're going to share?
Yeah. So first of all, I want to say thank you for letting me lead 2 sessions at AdvocacyCon. That means a lot to me. I really appreciate the opportunity to get in front of families and help as much as I can. I'm not sure which session is coming first, but one of them I'm doing with my dear friend Jordan Taylor, who works for True Crime BS. And he's like a FOIA expert. I mean, he's just so good at them. And we've done this session before where we go over just the basics of what a FOIA, a Freedom of Information Act is, how it can be helpful to families, and then just going over how to submit one. And Jordan is so sweet. He even put together a template for families. And I use this template all the time. It is so helpful. So we're going to do just a session on that together. And again, I'm really excited to do that. And when I say I'm leading that one, I'm just there as like moral support. Jordan's going to be doing most of it. He's the expert. And then the other session I'm doing, I think I'm doing it with Whitney. I'm not positive on that.
I plan to be there as long as nowhere else needs my attention.
Okay. And then in addition to that, I mentioned this earlier, a dear student of ours, Steve Patton and his wife Renee are going to be there. And we're going to be making an announcement of something that we've created for families with the Pattons, because we were inspired by them, and they're going to join us, and we're just going to be talking about different ways that families can advocate for themselves. Things like sending out press releases to get, media attention, emailing billboard companies to try and get a donated billboard. You can create your own flyers, like things like that. Whitney and I took the same victim advocacy course, and we learned in that course that it is really great to help. You can advocate for people, and that's great. And it's more about advocating for survivors that are going through the court system, but it can be applied to families. When we're working with families, it's really great to help them with things. But at the end of the day, you also want to motivate them to help themselves, because like, what if I'm really busy and I can't help this family? Like, am I going to gatekeep that information on how they can help themselves, or can I put it out there for families to be able to help themselves? And one thing and this just goes to, I just want families to feel like they don't have to rely on other people. I think a lot of times they feel like they have to have other people help them, right? They have to have the police to solve the case. They have to have the DA's office to prosecute the case. They have to have, just all kinds of people that they can't really do a lot of things on their own, or so it seems. But if we can teach them ways that they can help themselves, I think that they will feel more confident, and also not feel like they're being held hostage by a system that isn't there to help them. So, of course, I want to continue helping families as much as I can, but I also want to help as many people as I can help themselves. So that's kind of the purpose of that.
It's almost like giving them some of the power back. They probably feel so powerless that they couldn't help what happened to their loved one, and they feel stuck. By giving them these tools and teaching them how to do it, that's giving them ownership. That's giving them their power back, I mean, in some small ways. And I can only imagine how overwhelming it feels. Again, I can only imagine, because I've never been through anything like that, and not knowing where to start. And Haley, what you are doing is literally showing them how to start, and kind of like putting it, like helping them help themselves. And it's amazing.
This is why I wanted to do AdvocacyCon, for this very reason. Having been in this situation for almost 4 decades now, it is so difficult because, like, if you think about yourself as just as a general person, you're skilled at some things. You're probably really good at those things that you're skilled at. But when you get thrown into a situation like mine, where you have to try to fight for justice, now you have to understand public relations. You have to understand marketing. You have to understand, fundraising, awareness campaigns, how to use social media. So many things that not everybody's equipped to do, and so, like, I love that that's the skills that you are bringing and sharing, because the families need those brainstorming sessions where they can sit and think and, like, hey, maybe that might work on my case. Let me see if I can try that. That's going to be the beauty of AdvocacyCon, and I'm just really, really excited that you're bringing that to the conversation.
Thank you. And of course, Whitney will be up there with me. We've been working on this project for months now, and we've done webinars in the past together, just kind of talking about ways that families can help themselves. And I'm just so excited that we'll be able to share these things, and of course I'll be around more than Whitney, because, like, she's helping run the whole thing. She might be a little busy, but we've talked at length about this and different ideas. So if anyone's there and they want to ask questions, like, I'll be around. And I'm just really excited for this opportunity. I just want to help as many families as possible. And with the project we'll be unveiling there, we'll be able to just help really an unlimited amount of people. So I'm very excited and so thankful that Whitney joined me at True Crime Podcast Training to help. And thanks for sharing her, Melissa and Eric. I appreciate it.
No problem at all. And I'm sure we could squeeze out the hour and a half that she needs to be on the stage with you.
Yeah, we can cover it. We got you, Whit.
We got this.
Thank you.
Since we both missed a meeting today.
They did.
We got you then.
They did. It's fine. I got it. That's why we work so well together, is you just got to jump in when you got to jump in. So how can we, as the AdvocacyCon team, support victims' family without causing harm outside of what we're already doing? Isn't that like the $1 million question?
Yeah, I mean, I think that you're already doing so much more than the vast majority of people. I think just continuing to share things on social media or anything like that, any ideas you have, I think are really great. Or maybe if you hear new things at the conference, and maybe share those with families who couldn't be there, that could be really helpful. But yeah, I think you're already doing just so much for families. And I can't really think of anything. I think you're, sharing their stories in your newsletter and on the website and all those things is just really great.
I want to ask a follow-up question to that, since you brought up the website and the newsletter. How important do you think it is for some of these unsolved cases to build that digital footprint through other websites, through other, social media groups? Do you think that's a pretty important thing to do? And maybe if you want to expand on maybe why. Sorry to put you on the spot.
No, that's okay. I think that everything revolves around the internet today. And so if you can get your loved one's name out there when, there's a Google search, and just having multiple things pop up is just really helpful. One thing that I've been working with families on recently is like a link tree for all of their important things, because sometimes we help families make flyers, or they have their own flyers, but they're only able, with a QR code, they can only link to one website or something like that. But if you can do the link tree as your QR code, then you can have all kinds of things listed on there. You can have podcast episodes. I just did one for Kelly Dove's family. She went missing back in the 80s. She was abducted from a gas station while she was working, while she was on a call with 911. Absolutely terrifying stuff. But with hers, I was able to like add in the tip information, like you just click on a little box and it brings up the tip. I was able to add her 911 call on there, so all kinds of things. That's a really great place to keep things, and a link tree will show up in a Google search. I always recommend families have a Facebook group or any type of social media presence, because you can use that as a way to have a call to action on there. You can explain, you can share your loved one's story, you can share flyers, you can share memories of your loved one, photos, all those things, but you can also share your calls to action, which would be like sign my change.org petition, fill out the rally starter, just share the flyer, like that's a really great way to spread awareness to as many people as possible. So I highly recommend having your digital footprint on social media if possible. I know that can be really overwhelming to families, but if you have the wherewithal to do it, I think that's great. Or there are some families like Stacy Colbert's family. They have a Stacy's friend from college that helps with the social media, so have a trusted friend help you with those things. But I definitely think getting out there is really helpful. One thing I've been trying to do, because I'm sure you've all noticed this, with a lot of these unsolved cases, they don't have a Wikipedia page. And when you're looking up stuff online, it's like really great when a Wikipedia page, because it'll come up first, and it has like a summary of everything. Of course, I do not recommend using it for research, but it's a really great way to have just a summary of information. And also, I don't know how to really word this, but it also makes it seem like, I'm not sure what the right word is, but it makes it seem more important. I'm not sure if that's the right word, but it's like, oh, there's a Wikipedia page for this. And so what I would like to see is more families having Wikipedia pages for their loved one. And I'm working with a friend on doing that. It is time consuming. But if you know somebody who is already able to make Wikipedia edits, if you can get them to create a Wikipedia page for your loved one, that will show up at the top of the search results. And so I think that's a really great digital footprint to have if possible. But yeah, those are just some ideas. And just to too long didn't read, TLDR to your answer. Yes, having a digital footprint is super important. I highly recommend doing it with whatever your comfort level is and whatever you feel like you have the energy for. Definitely try to get things out on the internet.
I don't want to date us because 3 of us in this live stream are much older than another one of the persons in this live stream. But I think people feel when there is a Wikipedia page, it's almost like solidifies it a little more because we grew up on Wikipedia. My generation was like, that's the first thing you find. So it makes it, not to sound tacky or gross, but it makes it feel more real because everyone knows what a Wikipedia page is. So it's almost tangible.
Credible.
That's the word I was looking for. I'm glad someone else has better vocabulary.
I was like, that is not the right word for this because there are a lot of important cases that are not on Wikipedia. But yes, credible. There's something about that Wikipedia page that I find it's just something I think needs to happen. So I recommend if you yourself know how to make Wikipedia pages, you have to make a certain amount of edits before Wikipedia will let you create pages. But if you're like that and you want to help families, you can always reach out to a family on, a Facebook group or something and say like, hey, I'd love to help with that. So, yeah.
I loved your point about having if a family doesn't want to run the social media pages, having a friend or someone do that. And I think that could field so much of the negative comments or the speculation, because we don't want to believe that there are so many trolls on the internet, but there really is. And so kind of having someone that's at least one step away, I feel can save the family so much mental health anguish. I'm just like letting them know, hey, this is a good one. And then not even mentioning all of the bad ones, because I can't, it would just be horrific, the things that people say.
Yeah, absolutely. And another thing, just to build off of that, another thing I recommend families do is create a dedicated email to the case. For example, Bethany Hassel just commented, and I actually got the link tree idea from her. She has one for her brother Vladic Hassel's, Brian Vladic Hassel's case, his disappearance. And I thought that was wonderful. And then she also has a dedicated email address, and she puts that on everything. I think that that's really great because one, you can keep everything organized into one email and you know it's all there. Also, you can protect yourself by not giving out your personal email. And then also, Charlie from Crime Lines brought this up, which is Melissa's point. If you have somebody that you trust who can share the email account with you and can weed out those things if anybody sends in anything from, like a troll or something like that, you can have somebody kind of act as a barrier there. So I think leaning on people who want to help you, who are trustworthy, is a great thing to do. For sure. It can really help with the, just it's like Christy said, it takes a toll on you having to do things by yourself. So definitely lean on people who want to help and that you trust. The trust part is a big deal, but don't be afraid to lean on people.
I want to circle back around to this question that Steve had, and I know that Robert had one above that, so we'll build that one next. But I want to ask Eric about this specifically because he has had some success with online petitions. And how do you feel about them? Yours was successful?
Yeah. Yeah, it continues to be successful. I think petitions can be good. It depends on the situation and it depends on the agency that you're trying to get to pay attention to you. I see it as not the first step in that kind of conversation. It would, I think, be more of an escalation if you're feeling like you're not being heard or if you're feeling like they're not taking you seriously. Because what happens with a petition is that it builds a sense of momentum if it's done right. And so if you can get people to help you share it and sign it, then what happens is the person that's copied or the person that's supposed to be emailed to can see clearly that there are people watching what is happening with this case. And that's what happened with Jacob's case. They could clearly see there were thousands and thousands of people signing every day. And so I couldn't be ignored anymore, because the DA at that point had to do something. People were calling, his office and emailing him and mailing him. So I think it can be a powerful tool to get the attention of somebody who maybe isn't wanting to talk to you about your family's case. And unfortunately, that does happen. And so in my case, it was phenomenally successful. I encourage people that feel like they're at their wits' end and they're not able to communicate with, either law enforcement or a prosecutor for one reason or another, just to build that extra public pressure on them to feel the eyes watching the case. And then one more thing. The other thing that helped a lot was the media pays attention to petitions. And the media in Albuquerque, within probably a day of me posting my petition, I had appointments on all 3 major channels in Albuquerque for like that following week. So it really did work to get people talking a lot about Jacob's case.
Yeah, Haley, have you seen? Oh, just kidding. Go ahead.
No, I read your mind. I think that is so wonderful, and I'm so glad that you had that experience. I think that they are a great call to action for people. People want to help, And that's a free way that people can help by signing the petition. So I definitely don't think that they, and Eric, please correct me if you disagree, but I don't think they can hurt anything.
I think it really depends on the situation. If you, I feel like as a family, if you haven't taken the time to try to call and email first, and that's your first step, that could cause problems with a law enforcement agency that may not be adversarial. You know, it could turn them adversarial. So I would say for me, it would not be the first thing I would do. I guess it really depends on the situation.
Can you provide more specifics on what your petition specifically asked for?
Oh, sure. So, so my baby brother, if you don't know, was murdered almost 4 decades ago, and we had been just kind of getting the runaround from the district attorney, and they would either ignore us or try to kind of push us off. And so I wanted to engage my listeners at True Consequences and people that cared about Jacob's case to at least show up, because I feel like if it's just me and my mom showing up, it's easy for them to say no. But if it's like me and my mom and the whole world showing up, it's a lot harder. And so for me, it was a strategic thing to try to get the DA to at least consider talking to me. And he emailed me, but he turned the case over to the Attorney General, which was good because I didn't want it in the county anyway. What the Attorney General did is a different story, and I saw him today, by the way. I'm fine.
All right. So Robert had a question a bit ago. I'm going to pop it up here. Will there be anyone speaking on positive and negatives of social media? Hashtags, plus how these things will be handled at the event. So as far as positives and negatives of social media, I'm trying to think. The one that comes to mind is a different type of media. We have Julie Murray speaking about media pressure, but that's more of like news, right? Or is it going to be social media?
Well, Julie and Shayna from Light the Way are going to be talking about the things that they've done as advocates to try to just keep that conversation going. I don't have a 100% fleshed out concept of what that is, but I think that's kind of the general gist of it. Crystal Gutierrez, who is a former news anchor for Albuquerque KOB, I think, or KRQE, and actually we went to high school together, which is weird. So like running in the same circles again. But she's going to be talking about how to get media and social media to care about your case, which I think, we could ask her to go into a little bit of some best practices, but really it's going to be focused on how to get traditional and social media to pick up your story.
I do also know that Jazz from Missing in America Network will be there, and she is a great person to speak to. I don't think her speech is going to be about this topic specifically, but she's a great person to approach and talk about this specifically, because she does an excellent job of working with families and what's the right and wrong things to put on flyers or put out there. How do you build these communities and these groups? She's a whiz at building Facebook groups. So Jazz from Missing in America Network, she's a great contact while you're there to talk to you about that.
And I did see somebody said they wanted to be a part of this AdvocacyCon. Absolutely, you can be a part of it. If you're a family member, go to our website, fill out the application, and we will be in touch with you. Can we circle a little bit back to Haley and the work that you're doing at TCPT? And I just kind of want to see if any of the people that are watching have any questions for Haley. And then Haley, if there's anything else that you want to say that maybe we didn't get to in our kind of ping-pongy conversation that we've been having during this live, feel free to throw that out there. But if you have questions, put them in the chat and we'll pop them up for Haley.
Yeah, I'm always happy to answer any questions. And for True Crime Podcast training, we have multiple types of programs. We have standard and a premium course, where one, you get a coach, which is me, one-on-one coaching. But basically, we just teach people how to research for true crime cases. And it's super in depth. It takes multiple weeks to take the course. But we go through all of my, almost 9 years of knowledge doing this. I feel like this kind of sounds like bragging, but I've been told that I am like one of the best researchers, in this field, and it is because I've been doing it for so long. But that's my specialty, and so we built a training program based off of that. And my former business partner, Andrea, she is a former teacher, so she took all of my knowledge and then created a curriculum that is like actually based in education. Like I could tell you all of my knowledge, but like, is it gonna stick? Because it needs to be put out there in a way that actually makes sense for learning objectives. So we worked on it for about a year and a half before we released it. It was just because it is so in depth, and we go through all of my resources that I recommend. And Whitney and I once a month host a live research session where you can just watch me research and I go over things. So if you feel like the paid program isn't for you, that's absolutely okay. You can watch me research live and get some insights there. And then also on our website, truecrimepodcasttraining.com, we have over a year's worth of live research events from me, and then also webinars that Whitney and I have hosted with different experts in the field. I think our number one popular one was we interviewed the head of the fingerprint section of the Kansas City Police Department lab, but before that he was a crime scene investigator. And so it went on for almost 2 hours. We were only supposed to have him for an hour, and everyone kept asking questions, and it was just very fascinating to learn from him. And we've had a psychology professor on and all kinds of things. So we do a lot of free educational content over there just because we want to. Our motto is we want to make true crime better, and I feel that in my soul. Everything I do is about making this community better, and better for families, but also better for the people who are working in true crime. So there's a lot of free resources over there.
I have taken Haley's course, and let me tell you, it is comprehensive. And it's for all learning types because you have reading, but you have videos and interactive parts of it. It is amazing, and I learned so much from it. I seriously recommend it to anyone because it's amazing.
Thank you so much. I'm really proud of it and so thankful for the people who have joined the group. And like I said earlier, we've had people take it for all kinds of different reasons, not just for podcasting. Like we've had people take it because they want to work in genealogy, and it really gave them a background on, because it's not just looking at like ancestry for genealogy, right? Like there's actual research that goes into it. So they learned that. We've had advocates, like Brandy just commented. She is an advocate who works with missing people, or works with families that have missing loved ones. And so she took it. We've had our dear Steve, who we spoke about earlier, who he took the course to learn how to research his daughter's case. So all kinds of different reasons to take it. And if you feel like we don't address your concerns or your reason for taking the course online, and you feel like maybe it could be helpful, but you aren't sure, you can always reach out, and I'm happy to have a conversation to see if it is a good fit or if I have another suggestion.
Okay, we've got some questions. What advice do you have to help benefit families of missing persons most? Like what helps, what hurts? And of course, thank you for everything you do.
Brandy, thank you so much for your question. I think that the thing that benefits families the most is really keeping their loved one out there in the media or on social, just out there in the public as much as possible. That keeps everyone thinking about the missing person, remembering that they're still missing. We've seen in the past some issues with like Aisha Jackson's case from El Dorado, Arkansas. At one point, there were some people who were arrested for her disappearance, but then the charges were dropped. And after that, people just, they had seen the news that somebody was arrested. And so they're like, oh, okay, she's been found. Everything's, we don't have to keep searching for her. But that's not true. So like her Facebook group, they keep sharing her flyer, like, no, she's still missing, so being able to keep that information out there, even when the media is not reporting on it, I think is really important. That's the number one piece of advice that I have for people is just in any way that you have the energy and capacity for keeping your loved one's face out there, it is very important. As for what hurts, I'm not really, nothing's coming to me off the top of my head. I think I can't really, do you guys have anything on what would hurt?
I think that sometimes families can experience maybe some form of hurt if maybe they're working with somebody who is not above board, right? Like somebody who claims to be a search and rescue trained professional, but they may not be, or claims that they are a private investigator and may not be. Those kinds of situations, I think, can cause problems. But like anything that you do to get that awareness out there, I don't think it's going to hurt it. It can cause people to comment things that might be hurtful, but the actual momentum of building that kind of awareness, I don't think is negative.
That is such a good point. And I think this is what Shayna and Julie Murray might be discussing during their conversation or their session at AdvocacyCon is things like, I think they have a plan to bring up what to look for in an advocate when you're working with someone. And I think, like Eric said, it can be hurtful to the family if they work with someone who is not what they make themselves out to be. So I highly recommend that families do their due diligence and research who they're working with. Contact other families who have worked with these organizations, get a firsthand review, and also listen to your gut. If you feel like you're working with someone who is maybe over promising or they're doing things that you're just not comfortable with, it's okay to step away. You do not owe these people anything. You need to protect yourself and your loved one at all costs. So I think definitely looking out for red flags and things like that, because you could end up working with someone who is a monster and then they start saying bad things about you online, things that aren't true, and unfortunately that does happen. Um, so just really being careful about who you put your trust in. I think, and again, I don't want to put that on the family, right? Because they're just looking for as much help as they can with their loved one. But there are monsters out there and they are in this community. So please protect yourself and listen to your gut. If you feel like there are any red flags, there are other people out there who are not monsters who will help you. So I think just keeping that in mind, that's a really great point, Eric. Thank you for sharing that.
We touched on this a little bit earlier, but we can circle back around to it. What are some positive ways to use social media to advocate and help cases? I think kind of like what you already said, the goal is to keep your loved one's face in front of as many people as possible, as much as possible. And in a world driven by Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, all the different, I don't even have all of them because there's too many to keep up with. So I think that's the biggest positive from social media.
Yeah, and with social media, you can reach thousands of people, if not millions, more than I feel like the media can do. So I think social media is invaluable to these cases. I know, just to use Vladik Hassel's case again, I think Bethany, his sister, and the rest of his family has found a lot of success on social media. Vladik could be anywhere in the United States, so being able to reach people in all 50 states is so helpful. And without social media, it's hard to know, besides podcasts. But then again, you have to rely on someone else if you're not going to do your own podcast. You have to rely on the podcasters to do the story for you. But with social media, you can rely on yourself. And you can reach people from all over the world. So I cannot recommend social media enough for people who want to bring awareness.
So I know there was somebody asking us if we could give them an attorney. Unfortunately, none of us are attorneys, and I don't have any referrals. Depends on where you're at. What I would say is maybe look up resources in your community that help with families of the missing and murdered. I believe, if I remember correctly, you might be in Florida. I know that there is a Project Cold Case in Florida. There is several organizations out there. You're not alone. I'm sorry that you're going through fighting for justice, but I just wanted to make sure I addressed your comments in there. We see you, and I wish I had more I could do for you. I wish I was an attorney, and I wish there was more that we could do for you in your case. So sorry, I just wanted to make sure I called that out so we weren't ignoring that.
Again, if anyone has any questions for Haley, throw them in the chat while we have her as our captive audience here. Make sure to ask all of the questions of her. Oh, here's one from Christy. How do we get our communities interested in our cases? I feel like that's difficult. It's so hard to get community involvement everywhere.
Yeah, I wish I had more advice on that. I feel like everything I do is in person or is online stuff. I think sometimes there are local groups who can help with that. Christy, I'm not sure what that's like in West Virginia. I know things from everything you've posted online, things are a little bit different in West Virginia. So I think if you can reach out to local organizations who do things in person, like in San Antonio, I know they have, I always get the name wrong. Oh my gosh. Search and Support, I believe is the name. I love Nina who runs it. Yes, Search and Support San Antonio. They do a lot of events and things like that and try to bring awareness, which is helpful, but that's San Antonio. That's a local thing. But if you can find a similar thing in your own place, that is really helpful. I think if you can get more local media coverage as well through sending press releases, if you can, I think it's all about just like reaching people in that area and then building from there. So if you can reach out and get more media engagement, and then you do have a call to action in those articles saying like, join the Facebook group or sign the petition, those kinds of things that can really help. Unfortunately, I feel like the in-person stuff just isn't as popular anymore. Like we all just live our lives online. But those are just some suggestions I have. I'm wondering if there are people at AdvocacyCon who will have better suggestions on that, like people who actually do in-person stuff.
Yeah, I think there's going to be a lot of families that have worked to get, awareness on their families' campaigns. So I think we're going to be seeing a lot of people sharing some best practices. Things that have worked for me has been, talking to anybody that will listen about Jacob's story and, begging people to share Jacob's story, begging podcast creators and other creators to share his story. Social media has been really, really big and important, but it is difficult to break through. One thing that Whitney and Melissa have taught me is a honkin' wave can do wonders for getting the news to care. And so if you can get other families in your area to come together with you and you're all united, that could help, because then you're holding the flyer, you're holding the poster, and that can be on the news. That can be on the front page of the paper. Those kinds of things can get picked up just because there's more power in a group of people than there is in just one or two.
Yeah, definitely. Getting involved with other families from your area will create more support for yourself, and it's harder to ignore a group of people than just one person. So I think that's a great idea for sure.
Let's see. I thought I missed a question here, but maybe I didn't.
While you look for that, I will say one resource that I really recommend if you're looking for any type of resource, like an attorney or a victim advocate, or just really any grief support, things like that, is Victim Connect. That is run by, oh my gosh, the National Center for Victims of Crime. And you can actually put in your location and what kind of resources you're looking for, and it will tell you what's around you. So there are definitely places out there that you can find exactly what you're looking for, or something close to it.
And if you are coming to AdvocacyCon, they will be there as well, so you can speak to them in person.
Awesome.
And thanks, Raul.
Thank you, Raul. Raul's the best. He well, we're no longer volunteers. We're official members of Light the Way advocacy project. So Raul is amazing. Christy, if I hear of anything when I'm at AdvocacyCon about in-person stuff in communities, I'll definitely let you know.
Perfect. Well, as we're wrapping things up, just to remind you guys, if you haven't already got your tickets to AdvocacyCon, please do. I dropped the link in the chat. If you can make it, would be amazing. We'd love to have you. Haley, tell them where all they can find you.
All right. So I'm on social media at Haley Gray Research. I post about cases that I'm working on. I post about advocacy tips, resources, those kinds of things. You can also find my website, haleygrayresearch.com, and then also truecrimepodcasttraining.com for true crime podcast training. But if you go to my website, haleygrayresearch.com, you can link to everything else as well. And I'd love to have anyone reach out to me on Instagram. That's my main social media profile, or email me if you have any questions. I'm always happy to answer anything that I can. And if I don't know the answer, I will try and find it for you. I did just see that Steve has a question, and it's for you all, not me.
Yeah, thank you so much. So will AdvocacyCon offer an opportunity for families to share ideas and experiences with each other besides bumping into each other in an elevator? Yes, we will. Actually, on Friday, we are having a mixer between the families and the resources that are there. And so that'll be the opportunity to connect with families, get to know people before the conference actually starts, so that whenever you walk into that exhibit hall, you have a little bit of a warmer welcome and you can start jumping right into the conversation on Saturday morning. And then there's going to be, lunch, there's going to be breakfast, there's going to be tons of time for families to interact with each other. But there is a lot of content and there is a lot of stuff to cover. So make sure you get those moments in when you can, because they're not as prominent as you probably would want. And then also on Sunday, we're doing a fundraiser for Impact Advocacy Foundation and Season of Justice. So that's going to be a game night. That's going to be a lot of fun. Game afternoon, probably. And so that'll also be an opportunity to rub elbows with other people.
I'm super excited for the game night. I mean, I'm excited for all of it. Of course, I'm excited to meet families, but the game night sounds really fun. And I'm in a good way to just kind of blow off some steam and just have a good time.
Right. We want to end on a positive for a good cause. We picked Season of Justice because they're local to the Indianapolis area. So we are highlighting them while we're in Indiana. And yeah. Let's see. Oh, if someone is coming with you, do you suggest splitting up to be able to participate in more of the workshops/presentations? I mean, that's really up to you. You'll have the schedule in advance, so you can kind of choose your own adventure, I guess, if you would like to get all of the sessions that you want. It was really hard putting the schedule together, guys, because I want to be in every session and I'm physically not going to be able to. This is when cloning would be super important and amazing. But yeah, it's going to be hard.
It's going to be hard. And if we can get our lives together, we will be recording the sessions. So fingers crossed that all works so that we can have offline viewing for the people that have attended. But not sure if that's going to work. So cross everything for us.
All right. Well, if that's it, no more questions, we'll call it an evening. Thank you so much, Haley, for spending your evening with us. Oh, Bethany just asked if the sessions are going to be recorded, and Eric kind of just touched on. We're trying, Bethany. We're trying.
Yes.
TBD.
It's in the works, but this is first year, so you never know.
Yeah, right. And if you connect with other families, at that mixer and you are like, hey, which sessions are you going to? Oh, I'm not going to be able to make it to that one. Could you share your notes with me? I think that is a great idea. I think we can all help each other and things like that. But thank you so much for having me and for letting me talk about my passion. And I'm just so excited for AdvocacyCon and being able to connect with families and share resources. And also, I know I'm going to learn so much more than I'm going to be able to even, I don't know. I'm very excited and humbled that you would let me speak. And yeah, so I'm excited. Thank you.
Awesome.
Thanks, guys.
Thanks so much. Bye.